Everyone, it is day 3 here at SeatStory Cup. 32 players have played down to 16, and we'll be watching that get cut even further today. That's Admirable, joined by Noxious and Raven. Noxious, we have some killer matches coming up.
Yeah, we got 16 of the best players, I think, in the scene just in general. We've got already trimmed down quite a bit. I'm kind of sad for some of the people that went out yesterday, but we're still left with a great array of players. So we've got Group A, B, C, and D down to 16. Tomorrow will be 8 players, so we'll have only 8 at the end of the day that we'll get out of this. Savjz, Ostkaka, Zile, and Super JJ in Group A. Seems like a really stacked Group A right off the bat there. I think I'd argue probably one of the more stacked groups in the day.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to pick a winner out of this one, as well as pretty much all 4 of these groups. There's a lot of really high-class players. In Group B, Jackie Chan was the winner of that Maverick-Jackie Chan match. Raven, is there any matchup here in particular that really stands out to you?
Overall, I'm going to look forward to some of the matches coming out of Group C with Camlin, Live Coach, Reynad, and Maz. It's almost like, we've rewound time to a certain extent, and this is what a lot of the tournaments looked like in terms of player base in like 2014, 2015.
Yeah, I think if you had to ask me about this, Reynad and Namaz is really a match that I'm looking forward to. That
Why is that?
That's a time-old rivalry, and we'll see who ends up coming out on top of that one. But Savjz versus Ostkaka going to be our first match here. So a previous SeatStory winner versus a previous world champion. And what a performance that Savjz had in day number 1. Just very clean matches overall.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I was going to say, I know Savjz has really been feeling it lately. Mean Streets of Gadgetzan is, obviously still very new. He had that great run on ladder where he held rank 1 legend, and he's just loving the game at the moment. And I think you can tell as well, because, when you're really enjoying the game, you're actually just going to play better in general anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, in the same group, we've got Super JJ, who's been putting in a ton of work practicing since the expansion came out. I mean, we're talking 14-hour day of practice alongside Live Coach, which are both in the top 16, so that shows just how much work was put into this. In Group B, I feel like ECOP and Torlk, I've talked to individually, they seem to really think they've got some kind of good grasp of the metagame overall. Not, a huge amount of practice, but they just understand the metagame.
Yeah, ECOP really an intuition and feel player, I think, overall. One of the more interesting ones to watch, actually, it was what was the tournament he won recently? The name is
Insomnia, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Insomnia, yeah.
When he won Insomnia, he'd actually spoken about how rather than focus purely on Hearthstone, he had just relaxed for 2 weeks leading up to that point, and I think it really showed in his performance at the event.
Yeah, it was really good as well. So that Insomnia there was 8 invites and then 8 qualifiers through a huge Swiss bracket, and ECOP qualified through the Swiss and then went on through the top 16 as well in a really impressive performance, beating out, I think, 6-0 was in the finals versus ECOP. So yeah, that was a really cool match, and really good for ECOP as he's been performing pretty well. Even he played in Game Goon. I think he got top 4, maybe top 8. So, it's just general, keeping on top of the tournament performance for him, which is good because he had a reasonably sized dry patch in terms of tournament performances in general.
Yeah, and talking about tournament performance in general, 6-0 in Group D, this guy has been a monster in Hearthstone, and he just keeps getting stronger and stronger. He was holding #1 game rank on Gosu Gamers for quite a long time, over $50,000 in cashes in 2016 alone. And this is without really significant major title wins. He has a couple of victories under his belt, but nothing that's like gigantic. But over and over, he just finds himself in top 8s and just consistently performing.
Like, I'm a little bit sad because a lot of the players that we see in Group D were mostly streamed on the B stream yesterday. We didn't see them on the A stream primarily, so a lot of the games that they played, Mr. Yagut, Show, and Orange, were played on the secondary stream, which means a lot of the decks that they played we didn't get to see. From what I watched on the B stream yesterday after catching up with the event, a lot of their lineups are very standard though, so there's nothing out of the ordinary. A lot of Rogue, a lot of Dragon Warrior, a lot of Pirate aggro, so everything seems rather standard on that front.
Yeah, and Mr. Yagut taking down Pavel, the current world champion, in the match that they played. Raven, is this going to be the event where Mr. Yagut kind of breaks out of that shell and has a big win here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not, to be honest. I think Yagut is really underrated as a player overall. Everyone he's the go-to, or one of the go-to top rogue players in the world, but he can play the game pretty well with other classes, and I think that's what he's really proven here. And he's exceptionally good at the game, has a great understanding, and I'm pretty sure if he's going to do it, this is the place to do it.
Yeah, now that being said, his play did look a little bit shaky in that series. I feel like nerves were coming into play to some degree. He doesn't have a ton of tournament experience under his belt. Noxious, how's that going to affect him in this top 16?
Yeah, I think his opponents especially have a lot more of that tournament experience. We see Orange in the group, we see 6-0, we even see Show in the event, which hasn't been participating in too many events recently. Focused a lot on streaming, but he's done some in the past, and I think that tournament experience going for these three players is going to give them an edge overall in the group stage.
Yeah, and of course, when it comes to Mean Streets of Gadgets and being recently released, we talked a little bit about Savjz, but there's another brewer in here with Group B. Stan Sifka loves to build some crazy decks. Raven, is that going to give him an edge when it comes to a new metagame like this?
I mean, I definitely think so. We saw yesterday Stan Sifka, with a sort of weird ban strategy versus Eloise, and then Control Warrior came out of nowhere from Sifka, and we were like, oh, no one's really prepared to deal with this deck. Everyone's presuming pirates, dragons, or no warrior at all.
Freeze Mage.
In terms of a lineup. Yeah, and Sifka literally said, like, well, Freeze Mage is on the up and up in tournament formats because of the ban. And yeah, Control Warrior is going to get some pretty good matchups. And we saw the game versus the Control Warrior versus the Pirate Warrior of Eloise. It was just like, there's just nothing she could do. You just play a Bloodhoof Brave, and that pretty much just ends the game off the bat. I mean, you just put one taunt down, you're like, I win.
Yeah,
Ali Armor Smith, anyone?
Yeah,
that card's
exactly.
pretty good against the aggro decks. I mean, Firebat was saying that yesterday, right? We harped on it a little bit, but he brought that lineup, last week to an event, ELC, and was getting mocked because Freeze Mage wasn't around. He thought everybody would bring it, and he was a week too early to counter that metagame. And Stan Sifka brought a similar lineup and managed to do pretty well with it.
Yeah, I mean, Freeze Mage has been sort of a talk of this tournament. We saw Rain at 3-0 with Freeze Mage in his group as well. So some great performances that we've had from the players. But with these two now comparing side by side with Savjz and Ostkaka, Savjz was, this is one of the earliest names from Hearthstone who was very dominant early on. You look at some of the early series that took place, he was a 4-time King of the Hill winner. He won the OGN Invitational. This guy was crushing it when it was 2014 Hearthstone. He stepped back and he's been more of a streamer lately, but in the tournament scene, his performance looked incredible. But Ostkaka is someone you can never count out of being top-notch competition.
Yeah, 100%. Through pure experience alone, and his recent performances have been pretty good. But in terms of Savjz, I just think I've spoken quite a lot with Savjz, and in terms of tournament play, he plays so much better when he's feeling good about the game and when he's feeling good about the tournament. He says, like, one of the things he has when he competes is he feels really bad if it doesn't go well and he loses and he can bomb out early. But when he's playing well, we saw yesterday him off to a fantastic start, winning his group. Then he's feeling fantastic. He's ready to play. He's hyped, and he's good to go. So I'm expecting this to be an amazing series.
Yeah. So in this series, Ostkaka has banned out Savjz's Druid, while Savjz has banned away Ostkaka's Rogue. So we're off to the races. In game number 1, it is Dragon Priest versus Reno Warlock for Ostkaka, and this matchup seems to be that Dragon Priest is putting up really strong performances basically every time I've seen it. Every turn it seems like it's got a strong play. And while he's not getting off to the races here with Twilight Whelp and with Wormrest Agent, he's going to have a lot of value this game because that's a second operative he's gotten from Netherspite Historian.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to look at the way Dragon Priest is panning out because initially when you look at Reno Lock, you look back to Handlock and you think, well, that's probably a very, very Warlock favored matchup because Priest has been historically pretty bad against it. However, we can see that Priest nowadays, Savjz banned the Rogue, but it's not necessarily because it's a terrible matchup, because the edge that Rogue has over Priest is about the same as Reno Lock over Priest. It's not that wide now. There's a lot of the gap that's been bridged by the tempo that the Priest acquires very early, and there's a Draconic Operative being kind of a key card in every matchup to close out games that otherwise would be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I think as well, the Rogue ban, Ostkaka, off the back of his win yesterday in his interview, was saying, I asked him, like, how well do you think Rogue is placed in the tournament or in general at the moment? He said, well, it's actually just one of the best decks by far. It's in like the top 2, top 3 decks at the moment. And he thinks just the raw power alone is enough to bring it to a tournament. Never mind, you go a bit more in depth into ban strategies. But getting back to this matchup, I feel like this is very quickly going to become a staple matchup in tournaments going forward. We've seen a lot of Reno Lock, a lot of Dragon Priest, and it's kind of a weird one. I feel like the Priest can run away with the game very easily just by chain dropping huge bulky minions, but if the Reno Lock can get that one big clear, that one big Shadow Flame, then it can be a little bit difficult sometimes for the Priest to really build the board up fast enough.
Yeah, to me, one of the big issues as well is just the pressure that Ostkaka can apply to board presence, and Twilight Drake is a really big part of that. Savjz had a great turn if Ostkaka didn't have a strong minion setup with Brand Bronzebeard. This would have forced a ton of pressure onto Ostkaka because of those Draconid operatives. Now that Twilight Guardian comes down, suddenly Savjz's turn looks a little bit miserable. So that key card changing a lot on this turn alone.
Yeah, this is kind of why the Cabal Talon Priest is so powerful too, is it helps your earlier minions like Twilight Whelp and the Warmest Agent survive. However, in the case of Historian, giving it extra health, yes, is impactful, but it's not really the size of the minion you want. It doesn't have 2 attacks, so it can't double ping a minion like Twilight Drake to kill it over 2 turns. Instead, you're kind of forced in a position of waiting, ignoring the Drake for now, trying to keep your board alive, and not really dealing with the Drake that well.
Yeah, I really like this attack on the Drake as well. Just chip at the health. The minion doesn't die anyway. You can just use your hero power to heal it up regardless. And you're just trying to get it a little bit lower, just a little bit lower, so it kills off, almost kills itself off, effectively.
Yeah, this play is really interesting to me because I feel like the chip damage can matter a lot when you have a wide board position. Often Ostkaka is going to be using kind of one minion to really play cleanup on the board. So when Savjz is foregoing the damage to face in order to push a little bit more here onto this Twilight Drake, it's kind of an interesting situation. I feel like this is more of like an intuition play here for Savjz, where he senses something is different, that he should be attacking this Twilight Drake, because I can't personally see a definitive reason for doing so.
Well, it's mostly the same idea as having a Warmest Agent buffed up at the Cabal Talon Priest. That you start attacking the Drake maybe twice. In the end, that will be enough to kill the Drake, except now you're killing it twice as slowly, right?
I see it now, which is if he wants to, he could run both of these Netherspite Historians into that Twilight Drake, and now suddenly it's threatened by the Draconid operative.
Yeah.
Very good setup there.
That's after a heal from the Farseer as well.
Right,
So,
yeah.
even less than that, if the
Wow.
heal didn't come down, the operative just kills it and survives. And it's just like, yeah, okay. And that extra chip damage, because what's 1 damage from the Netherspite to Arena Lock's face at this point? Like, it's not worth a lot. Whereas an easier, even a slightly easier kill on the Twilight Drake is worth way, way more at this point.
It also opens up the Holy Nova if that's ever a play he wants to go for. So a pretty weak Discover off the Draconid operative. Ooze, Refreshment Vendor, and Power Overwhelming, the options there. And that card needs to produce quite a bit more because you have plenty of mid-range stuff to battle with, but you do need some endgame.
Yeah, I think in terms of the Power Overwhelming, though, and it's something that the operative kind of opens up in a lot of the Priest matchups, is you still expect the Dragon Priest not to have a lot of bursts from hand, right? You know,
Right.
there's pretty much like Brand Corruptor is one of the highest natural bursts you can do, and obviously, well, you know if Brand's gone, so you can just play around that easily. But when they start playing these operatives and you just don't know what they're going to steal, I think it comes more to it in like Mage matchups, for example, in the Freeze Mage, if there's just a Fireball. But even a PO, that's 4 damage you're just not going to play around because you simply can't play around operative cards in this matchup.
Yeah. Bookworm looking mighty appealing.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty good play. I mean, the minions you have on board both survive the Drake, and you find yourself a kill on the Imp-Gang boss. The Shadow Word Pain was picked up, but there's not really a good, 4-mana play to accompany it this turn.
And the problem is as well at the moment, the tech does the same job as the Bookworm, right?
Yeah.
You know, except the Bookworm's just bigger, fills out the curve better, and saves
Clunkier
2
card,
and
too.
saves 2 cards because the Blackwing tech and the Shadow Word Pain are pretty much the Bookworm, but 2
Yeah.
of your cards instead of 1. So
The real thing to consider here is how the Dragon count in hand could actually affect things. Like if he wants to go into Bookworm and then he wants to play Draconid Operative, does he want a Dragon in hand for his Chill Maw? And I think that when you look at the big picture, it's plenty of time until that Chill Maw is going to come down. Bookworm is just a cleaner play. It puts a little bit more stats on the board, and it opens up your options later on.
Yeah, I really like that too. There was also the option of wondering, like with 1 more mana, I think there was the option to go Shadow Word Pain into Blackwing Technician, into healing the 5/6 after trading to the Farseer. But as it stands, applying some pressure, forcing the heals to come down at some earlier stage. See, like this, right? We look here, the Drake and the 3/2 end up being traded into 1 minion. This is kind of unheard of for Priest to have such a bulky threat.
And now this lines up for a pretty nice Holy Nova turn if he really wants to just clear the board. And he guards his Bookworm, gets the Emperor off, and gets a pretty good pickup in terms of that Warmest Agent as well. He can just fill out the curve pretty nicely.
Yeah, I'm curious how much damage this Emperor is going to do, though. I mean, Savjz, that's got to be a concern when Ostkaka is very quickly playing a turn like that. I mean, how often do you see Ostkaka blister through a turn?
Yeah.
In that fashion? Everything was set out, and it looked like that was the play that he was going for. So with Savjz, acting as quickly as he does he give away any information about this hand? Those are two very quick turns from players who'd like to deliberate over these options.
Yeah, and it looks like maybe he's got a second Nova with a kind of bursty pickup from the Draconic Operative, right? There could be a lethal, so if I tap, am I safe? There's something that Ostkaka has to consider right now, because Refreshment Vendor is the safest source of healing he's got in hand, and that's as bad as it could get for him if he didn't heal up. Like, it's kind of rare that the Priest is going to burst you down.
So first Kazaka's Potion going to fetch a 5.
Yep.
And we'll get a glimpse at what this was in a moment.
Yep.
But that's 2 potions that's coming. And he's picking up a 1-cost one now, and the first 3 are not strong options.
Nope.
This leaves room for Mistress of Mixtures to be played this turn too, right?
Yeah. Okay, so he didn't pick Armor the first time because Armor is the option for the second go.
Yeah.
So Armor is something that could stabilize a little bit.
Freeze a random enemy minion and draw a card is the choice for the Kazaka's Potions. That one's strictly being utility in this case, and this prevents any reasonable trades on board for Savjz, but he picks up a Potion of Madness.
With a brand with Operative. Oh, goodness. You can even use the Operative on the back of it.
This is some really cool stuff that he's got going on here. So my instinct tells me that Savjz wants to attack into this brand first and take it, so that way it will die to whichever one of the minions he attacks.
Yeah.
So he's going to go for the potion, and that's going to mean Draconid Operative as well. So 2 more cards coming for Savjz this turn.
Absolutely insane.
Of his choice, too. I mean, there's still a Power Overwhelming in the deck, so he could pick up a second copy of that and set up a crazy burst turn.
There's also a Shadow Flame to couple with that Power
Yeah,
Overwhelming.
he can just clear whatever he wants at this point. And he gets a second go. I do like the Shadow Flame here. The coil is, although Priest, really likes Cycle because it's something they're kind of lacking more or less outside of Cleric draws. I think the coil is very situational, whereas the Shadow Flame is just an emergency switch.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
What is this?
Is Savjz gonna somehow get the Leroy kill instead of Ostkaka here? And just by using Ostkaka's cards, that's kind of crazy. There's already a lot of power on the board, and no real, nice way for Ostkaka to deal with this.
Yeah, Kazaka's Potion is 4 damage to all minions and summon a 5/5. So with the Demon Wrath pickup, there is a clear available here.
Seems reasonable to me. I mean, the alternatives would be to wait an extra turn to go Abyssal Enforcer with a Shadow Bolt, but that's a little bit slow. I don't think you want to be using Soulfire here either, right?
Well, this is a really tough spot for Ostkaka because he's trying to wrestle control of this board. And the thing about it is Savjz now has 3 of your cards, and those are very difficult to identify. If he's a little bit too liberal with his life total, this game will end.
Yeah, I like just the straightforward Demon Wrath into Potion here. You get a 5/5 onto the board, you clear the opponent's board, and Priest normally can't just refill with multiple minions in one turn, right? And if they are, those minions are generally weak. And you have Abyssal Enforcer if the Twilight Whelps come out or something along those lines. So I really like that. Okay, so he's going for the Shadow Bolt, so he's valuing the secondary tier sort of AoE to combine with the Abyssal Enforcer maybe for a 5 damage AoE that turn over the single Shadow Bolt on a minion.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was looking at. The Demon Wrath is technically a more efficient use of the damage, but how strong is Shadow Bolt in this matchup? And when you consider the synergy of Abyssal Enforcer and Demon Wrath, that's just an intelligent play.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing as well is Shadow Bolt is exceptional against Azure Drakes, against Blackwing Corruptors, but also is Abyssal and Clear. Like it does the same job but to more minions. So you're like, yeah, that's actually just all round better in general.
And you may notice this is a 5/5 demon, so that does not get affected by Demon Wrath. And Abyssal Enforcer also happens to be a demon, so no damage to his own board.
I kind of like that. I mean, Blizzard designed this purposely. On purpose, they went, Warlock plays with Kazakus. Let's give them something they can play with. With the Demon Wrath as a combination play. So that was kind of nice. Now, Savjz is going to go for the bulky board play. So you just try to double up the buffs on the Warmest Agent and the Blackwing Technician, hoping to get some damage in before the Leroy combo comes out.
Wow.
But Ostkaka on his own side is also starting to pick up some pieces of that combo.
Yeah, and here's where the card advantage really starts to come in for Ostkaka. If he's able to get past that initial hump of just the strong minions that Savjz is going to be playing, Life Tap makes a tremendous difference in card economy. And if Ostkaka can trade his resources down, I think he'll be thrilled with that. Eventually, he'll draw Reno Jackson, he'll recover that life total, and snowball the game.
Yeah, he can actually just clear up this board if he really wants to with the combo we discussed earlier.
Does he play Mind Control tech? Because he's not too far off of the Dirty Rat MC tech.
I would imagine you like almost all Reno decks are running MCT now, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it changed a few things with the ban, in tournament format.
Well,
if you're expecting more control matchups, then MCT could be something you could actually drop from the list. But I feel like there's so many great options with the Dirty Rat, of course, being the main one. But even just Bran MCT on some of the more aggressive openings as well.
I do believe I saw the Dirty Rat in his build earlier. We've been watching a lot of Reno this weekend, so I could have been seeing something else. But the big thing to me is that it's probably in the build just because second-rate Bruiser is alongside of it. So you have multiple ways to punish early game wide board spreads here. So Abyssal Enforcer are going to be the last minion on board, and that's a Shadow Word Death.
Yeah,
so
that's an answer.
Savjz once again getting on board, but Ostkaka's hand not short on anything either.
Yeah, and Savjz here, going all the way back to the Chillmore. This is more of just a big dude to play. Probably Savjz was never really planning on relying on the Death Rattle area of effect damage from the Chillmore, so the lack of Dragon isn't going to bother him too much here. He just wanted a big dude to be able to try and beat up Ostkaka more than anything.
And now suddenly Savjz's hand is stranded.
Yeah, like it tends to, one of the things that happened with Dragon Priest is they tend to not run out of resources recently, but you also often need a Northshire Cleric at some stage to heal up some minions, get a few cards here and there, maybe 2 or 3 from the Northshires. Right now, this looks like nothing.
To be honest, if Dragon Priest could cycle any better than it can already,
we would be in a world of hurt.
I think that's a reasonable drawback.
Oh my gosh, that is a huge draw for Ostkaka. That is 15 damage onto Savjz.
I mean,
with Leroy Faceless Soulfire on the following turn, can Ostkaka lose this game if he plays Alexstrasza?
So I don't think so, because he has the damage to kill through the heal, right? So through the the hero power heal, he has that damage. Then you've got to think about taunts. I'm pretty sure both Wimmer's Agents are down.
Yes.
And also, he saw the Chillmore didn't go off. So he knows there's no dragon. So if a Twilight Guardian is drawn, he knows it cannot be active. So there's another taunt that won't come up.
Oh, hey. Hello, Leroy.
Oh, my
I heard
God,
you tried something fancy.
Happy Feast of Winterville.
What a nice gift.
Yeah,
I mean, I still think...
Ostkaka's actually 1 damage off lethal with Leroy Faceless Soulfire if Savjz heals himself to 17.
And kills the Alexstrasza.
Oh, he is.
Right,
Sorry,
right.
yeah, he is. So the Dirty Rat's going to...
So the power overwhelming Shadow Flame here can clear this, and then he can heal himself. Does he stay alive long enough, though? And now here he can actually pick up a card if he wants to, but if he picks up the card, then he's dead to Ostkaka's Burst.
So do you want to draw the card and get greedy? That's the question, right? Do you expect to die?
I think you should expect to die at this point, because the Alexstrasza wouldn't be played, right? You know,
I don't know, man.
No, a lot of the times you don't just go, no, Alexstrasza, and you've got like no burst in hand. You're like, I'm just going to play this dragon. He's not seen. He's seen 1 Shadow of Death.
That's a tough call, because if you really look at it, it's a 3-card combo for Ostkaka that he would need to be able to win the game this turn. And I don't really see how you're going to win the game if you simply clear and wait for your cards to come. I think he's got to go for card economy and just take the risk that he's dead this turn.
I agree with that line of play. I think the heal on the own face is basically playing to never win. You're never going to find another thing to do on the board.
You're playing to not lose instead of playing to win.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I think combined with the Warlock's health total as well, like, Ostkaka can actually just keep tapping. So he's always going to be so far ahead at this point. So yeah, that is going to be the first game. Bit of a wonky looking one. It looked like Savjz might have been able to do some Leroy shenanigans of his own with those operative pulls, but definitely wasn't enough. The Alexstrasza, not too much of a common pick in Reno at the moment in the standard builds, but definitely getting the work done for Ostkaka there.
Yeah, that's a huge tech choice. That's making a big difference there. And from Savjz's side, he had a lot of gas early on. He had multiple operatives in this game. I think the real thing about it was missing Northshire Cleric and missing Azure Drake in this spot. No Blackwing Corruptor for tempo. It was just sort of mediocre plays after the operatives. And the operatives, they're not looking for tricks. They're looking for giant endgame things to do so you can outvalue the Reno Warlock. And I think that's one of the reasons why Ostkaka has included Alexstrasza is to kind of cut into those value game plans.
Yeah, as well. And just the fact that the potions was able to clear that board, right? Because Savjz had a great board from like turn 5-ish. His board was looking very good and could really just pummel Ostkaka down. But the potions into the next turn or so use of AoEs cleared out the board. And, like you said, that combined with the lack of draw was huge.
We could almost always see Savjz's touch in his lineup somewhere. That was a Violet Teacher.
Violet Teacher in the Rogue deck. Something you don't see too much of, but it's been experimented with quite a bit. What's the last class for Savjz? Is it the Druid after this?
His Druid has been banned away.
Okay, that's what it is. He told me I would love the Druid. Turns out I won't get to see it.
Oh, yeah.
That's too sad.
I'm sure he would have loved it as well.
You will like the Druid.
All right, so you guys know something I don't.
I don't think I've actually seen the Druid build yet. I mean, he just 3-0'd one of his matches.
No one's seen the Druid. I just know what it is. That's all.
Okay.
It's a little
I have the
inside info.
secret information.
Keep it hidden.
Of course.
Anticipation is key. So Violet Teacher's a card we haven't seen in Rogue in quite some time. Why do you think that is, Noxious? I mean, this was a card that was huge in this build and suddenly fell to the wayside as one of its main pieces.
Yeah, I think one of the big keys here is more people are playing the Questing Adventurer list, cutting the SI7s, trying to go for the all-ins. And as a result of that, one of the cards that has to go to make room for more all-in is Violet Teacher, as it is itself also kind of an all-in card when you're playing the Rogue deck. You spend a lot of spells into it, and you can't have too many cards that require that you dump spells into them, otherwise you'll be spraying them too thin and never get anything done.
Yeah, I think as well the Violet Teacher was used very effectively as an anti-aggro tool, but now all the rogues are in the pirate package, so you can use those pirates to either be highly aggressive in your opening, or use them to trade away and sort of stem the aggression from your opponent as well, and they just come out quicker.
Yeah, Ostkaka with a really interesting play here as well. Savjz has chosen to attack this Mistress of Mixtures over the course of a couple turns. So Ostkaka just Earthen Ring Farseer heals it back to 2, and suddenly that's some real damage that's coming from that 1 mana.
Yeah, you attack. If you attack it twice, you heal back from its death, right? Because you end up taking 4 damage and healing for 4. But when it gets healed up, suddenly there's a net damage gain for the Warlock player, and it kind of sucks. I mean, if an Argus comes down on something like this, for instance, it gets even worse. So.
Yeah. Plus, it helps protect against turns like Small Time Buccaneer. This will force Savjz into likely doing a little bit of trade work here.
Yeah, and this is just awful as well. As the Reno, a lot of the time you feel like you're under pressure to answer the rogue player, right? The Tomb Pillager you need to give an answer to because it'll just punch you in the face and just go highly aggressive. And then there's Cold Bloods to be afraid of. But, Ostkaka with that play just sort of makes him the aggressor in this matchup, or at least the opening, which feels kind of weird for the rogue player, I think.
Mountain Giant gets drawn.
Yeah, do you just like Doomsayer here?
There was the option of going Dirty Rat into Doomsayer.
Yeah, I just like Doomsayer.
I like Doomsayer alone.
Yeah. You just say you are not having a turn 4. You're not playing Tomb Pillager this turn.
You're not playing Tomb Pillager. You're not coining Azure Drake.
Yeah.
You were instead using Fan of Knives.
Yeah, which is, you know what? We're both probably happy. Fan of Knives, pretty dead card in this matchup.
They both shake hands and go their separate ways.
Yeah, exactly. They've had that one good time.
Just like how
done.
all of my dates have always ended. So, second rate Bruiser.
That was too real. That got way too real, way
Hang
too
on,
quick.
is this on? I feel like... Oh, it's not on. We need the Frodan soundboard on. I feel like he would have something to say about that.
Second rate Bruiser, the
Mom
play.
spaghetti. No.
And Savjz, this is a really crazy hand. Like, at any point he picks up Gadgetzan Auctioneer.
We're going to have to wait 10 minutes while he empties his deck.
He's just going to... I feel like he's such a high chance to win at any point he draws Auctioneer.
Yeah, and I was going to say, when the Doomsayer was played, Savjz had the Fan of Knife that doesn't do very much in the matchup. I think you're almost happy that happens, because the texture of the hand didn't really give him too much to do, even with the coin he would get from Tomb Pillager, so he could apply a bit of pressure, but it gets dismantled rather quickly. So when the Doomsayer goes off, it buys you an extra turn to cycle, and maybe find that Auctioneer for the hand that you had.
Do you think Ostkaka here just has to go for Mountain Giant? Everything else feels terrible.
Well, if you know anything about Ostkaka, what he's thinking about is
Life debt.
everything else.
Yeah.
So
I just feel that with the hand, like everything else in his hand currently doesn't really do anything.
Well,
yeah, he can Shadow Bolt and Coil, but the problem is you're just saying, again, like go again, Rogue.
you do have to
something.
Siphon Soul. You are fitting in a life tap. I do think there's a lot of merit to Coil and Shadow Bolt here. If he plays the Mountain Giant, say he runs into like Sap Coldblood and maybe a Conceal behind that, he's probably dead. And so those are all cards that are within Savjz's range when he's been holding on to basically everything in his hand. So I'm not sure the Mountain Giant is really justifying the risk that you're presented with when you make a play like this. I would expect him to be on somewhere around Mortal Coil, Life Tap, Shadow Bolt.
Yeah, I agree with that, but he goes for the Mountain Giant.
I'm telling you. He's figured out that that's not good enough. If he gives up initiative, just as likely he has Azure Drake or another Tomb Pillager.
So me Ostkaka 1, you 2 0. Boom!
You're world champion, Raven.
My world champion mindset really kicking in there.
I hope he gets punished for this so bad too.
It's happening now. I can see this hand, and it's not looking. There's no conceal at the very least, right?
Conceal was the magic card here, I think, where If Savjz had Cold Blood, and Conceal, that forces Ostkaka to basically have Shadow Flame.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Sap would have been pretty bad.
Oh, Sap is awful.
Yeah,
Sap
yeah.
is
But
a
I
nightmare.
feel like if there, you're at the point now where Savjz is pressured enough. He's got a huge hand still in the game. Like, if you get sapped, yeah, you probably just lose. But if you don't, you've got a real good follow-up with everything else that's in your hand, like the Shadow Ball, the Coil, the Siphon, if required. So you can then deal with it and then, say, oh, well, I've still got the Mountain Giant.
Savjz is moving in here.
Wow,
I don't
is he just
blame
going
him.
for it?
Leroy in hand. So he's trading off the Mountain Giant to
I like
prevent
this.
Shadow
Yeah,
Flame or
yeah.
taunts. He's dropping down to 14 in the meantime, but
There's a Shadow Bolt that Ostkaka somehow disguised, I want to say, right? You almost didn't think it was there since it wasn't played, and the Mountain Giant was the option. So I'm not sure if that was some type of bait going...
Do you ever go for Dirty Rat? Sorry, Nox.
well, here's the thing. I think that Ostkaka can safely assume there is no Gadgets in Auctioneer in Savjz's hand because he just played all those cards. He's holding on to 3 still, and he's got coin.
Well,
so if he had coin, he could have very easily gone Gadget's hand, backstab, coin, Cold Blood, drawn a bunch of cards, presented a similar board.
And he played the Tomb Pillager. So, he chose to play that minion. You would never play Tomb Pillager in that point, because the
Over
reasons
auction.
Yeah, exactly. That would never happen. Is this the turn to just Shadow Bolt? And then because the rest of your turn looks kind of wonky, you could just play Dirty Rat.
Well, he also has time to wait, I think, as well, when you consider that. Shadow Bolt for the 9-4 or Siphon Soul for the 9-4, I think, is pretty straightforward this turn as well. And with Reno Jackson in hand, I think he's free to pay a little bit more life. So I don't think he's necessarily fearing any burst potential at this point. Both Cold Bloods are gone.
I was just thinking to have the Dirty Rat and the Ooze out, and then whatever gets pulled and the Tomb Pillager is probably going to get answered.
Now, this does leave him open to Leroy, Eviscerate, and something. 11, 15. It'd be 2 extra points of damage. I'm trying to think of...
There's no deadly poison in the deck that I know of. Double Eviscerate, I guess, would be the way. Right? With the preparation.
Yeah, and I'm curious this Violet Teacher if you ever want to get any extra 1/1. So he wants to save it all for a potential...
Auctioneer,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, if Ostkaka played a Mountain Giant in a spot where he had Shadow Bolt, based on what happened, there was a Shadow Bolt and he chose the Giant over it, you're assuming he's got some health to play with, right? With the Reno Jackson being in hand, that's definitely true. So Savjz is not going to bank in going all in because there's still a longer game ahead of him, and thus keeping those coins and the preparation for the Gadsden Auctioneer is going to be worth something.
Ostkaka's got to read this hand somehow. I mean, Savjz is doing next to nothing on his turns.
Yeah, well, he knows 2 of the cards in there now are coins.
3.
He knows 3, are
Yeah.
coins, because there's
Yeah.
the actual coin from the beginning of the game. So
Yeah,
I like this is, you can't mess around. You can't mess around on 11 health versus the Rogue here. Not when there's so many cards in hand, because the second
worst
there's a
draw.
Gadget Zen, you just die.
That has got to be the worst draw in the build. Honestly, at this point, if Savjz had drawn Conceal, I think we would have been seeing a Leroy all-in
Yes.
on this turn. And just not drawing the Auctioneer, not drawing Azure Drakes. I mean, card draw has been the thing that's lacking for Savjz in this series so far.
Do we do it? Do we go Brand, Dirty Rat, set up a Shadow Flame? If there's
It's looking good to me.
Yeah.
And well, look at Rogue. I mean, the Violet Teacher's the only 5 health minion in the deck? So everything
Yeah.
else you can pull is 4 or lower, which lines up.
Yeah, hashtag Edwin Questing Adventure potentially, but
Sure, but from hand that you're going to
Yeah.
pull from Dirty Rat, I like it.
You probably know that the card on the leftmost card is a minion that's not playable very much.
he probably doesn't even need to brand here a lot of times too, because
Right.
how many minions is Savjz going to have in hand realistically here?
I think it's nice to just have the brand down, though, right?
But I don't see a qualm. I don't have a qualm with it.
Yeah. Good.
Good.
Good, you don't have
Right.
a qualm with
I
it.
don't like qualms. And
This does-
you having them.
This does allow him to Shadow Flame the brand away if he wants to, and have the extra power around with the Reno. I'm not sure how relevant that is, but I'm guessing we're seeing a Shadow Flame or a Hellfire here.
Yeah.
If you Hellfire, you're leaving your brand vulnerable to Fan of Knives, but do you really need the brand at this
I
point?
mean,
is the question.
you could actually just Shadow Flame the rat, right? Oh, he's got Shadow Flame the brand.
Well, look at his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's basically got the game. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's got 13 on board right now.
Yeah. I
Oh,
was just thinking,
man.
like, is the taunt worth more than the brand after seeing Leroy?
Doesn't
It's
matter.
insignificant,
Yeah.
but I like to think of all the options.
Yeah, this was checkmate with the Shadow Flame here.
Yeah. Now the Edwin shows up like, yeah, I just dodged that Dirty Rat.
Siphon.
Yeah, it's not the draw he needed. It's been Auctioneer, Azure Drake, and those for a couple turns. So Savjz looking like unless a miracle is
Happens,
drawn, that
yeah.
this one's over.
In before Savjz forgot to put them in his deck. He changed the auctioneers for Violet teachers.
Yeah, he's actually just going to hold, too. He says no reason to do anything here. Just go ahead and pack it in. That's going to be Ostkaka with a 2-0 lead momentarily. Just a matter of going through the motions.
Yeah.
So other than the card draw missing, is there anything here that really stood out as a big factor this one? I felt like the turn 6 Mountain Giant and that risk succeeding was sort of the starting point.
Yeah. I genuinely think that the Mountain Giant, although I was all for the Mountain Giant play, if there was a sap, if there was a punish, that game's probably over for the Reno.
So it would have been a lot difficult.
Coin concede. Is this a new record?
Maybe.
Oh, just prep coin concede.
Okay.
How many coins can we streak after that prep?
Yeah. Get it in the Guinness World Book of Records. How many coins before concede? Held by Savjz, the SeatStory Cup.
Savjz is amused by the prep coin concede.
Yeah, you could tell so. But certainly the pressure's on at this point. I mean, he dominated his group. And suddenly in this matchup, what is going on? And now he's playing the mirror match. And it's kind of surprising to me that Savjz did not launch this one afterwards. There's two things I'm guessing. Number one, that Reno Warlock was going to be better against Ostkaka's lineup to follow up, and that the Rogue could have been a better matchup. But he is extremely dangerous with this Reno Warlock deck. He has a ton of experience. I'm guessing that if anyone can navigate the mirror, it's got to be him.
Yeah, I completely agree, actually. I would put, like, Savjz, Live Coach, and Sivka is like some of the best Reno Lock players overall, and he's got to be comfortable. If you're going to be pinned into a corner, you're going to be pinned into a corner with this deck. If you're Savjz, he's going to be really happy about this. But I don't know how he's going to play around, or how he's going to have to think of to play around the Alexstrasza, because that is not like a standard tool used in most Reno locks. But he is aware of it, which is super important.
It's a very good thing to have actually in the Reno mirror, because if you can force them to Reno because they're afraid of the combo coming in, then you can reset their health to 15, and there's no way for them to really go above it unless they keep the Refreshment Vendor and the Earthring Farseer all together.
Or even the other way around, you can actually not feel the need to pressure too early. And then if you have Alexstrasza available for 9, you can just Alex. And if they Reno, you're like, well, okay, now you cannot go below 20 health or even 220 health and you're dead. Yeah. And you have to deal with the 8/8.
Yep. So opening up here, a couple Doomsayers for each player. So it's life taps for the first few turns. But Doomsayer, a pretty interesting card in this matchup, because something that's the most important to land is either a big Twilight Drake or a Mountain Giant on turn 4. And Doomsayer can take that potential away. Yeah. At times. And even in the face of seeing a Twilight Drake, sometimes the Doomsayer can just kill it. So I'm guessing Ostkaka is going to be on life tap Doomsayer on the following turn, and that's going to leave Savjz with a turn where he's got to find something to throw away.
Well, Savjz will be on Doomsayer this turn, right? Because it's going into Ostkaka's 4.
He could tap Coin Doom and just deny the turn 4 from Ostkaka and force him to be at 9 health, and then get initiative back, play Peddler on 4.
Just look at the body language from Savjz. This alone is telling you how tough of a turn it is.
Yeah.
Well, the frustration is if you do the Doom to counter the 4-drop, if they don't have a 4-drop, you've thrown your Doom and they've still got theirs, which then even later on can combine with Dirty Rat to make really awkward turns come out as well. So, it's tough to throw it away, but this is the unfortunate position you have when you go second as the Reno Lock in this match, because you just feel like you have to if you don't have a 4-drop. If there was a Twilight Drake, hey, would have just played the Twilight Drake out 100%.
I'm not 100% certain. I feel like Dark Peddler would have been fine there with the Twilight Drake on the following turn.
All right, Dirty Rat's out. Let's do it.
Just curious. Yeah. But here's the thing. Dirty Rat is meant to counter combos. And one of the ways that this card can feel wasted is when you're using it and your opponent doesn't have a combo card. And Ostkaka going to roll the dice right away.
Leroy. Okay, that was really good for Savjz.
The odds of this backfiring.
Great.
And he picks up Kazakus.
There was Faceless, Leroy, and even to a certain extent, 4 Kazakas, Bran in Savjz's hand that could have come out and ruined his overall game plan, and it was Peddler.
Or even just the Abyssal Enforcer. I mean, losing a 6/6 in this matchup is nothing to scoff at.
It's the top end of your deck pretty much at this point. Most people are cutting, Jiraxis from their list, so this is about as big as it's going to get aside from Mountain Giant.
Now, I've watched Savjz play this matchup a lot, and he has mentioned that in control matchups, you want to land Bran and Kazakus. But I think he's feeling pressure here against Ostkaka, where he realizes he may not be given the time or the opportunity to make that happen. And you can see him deliberating, should I life tap or should I Kazakus right now?
Yeah, because one of the issues is, if you don't, I love Bran Kazakus, and I try and do it every single time I play a control match. But if he doesn't, is his turn just going to be enough? Does then the slow turn like push him harder on the game or not, so Ostkaka can just get ahead because of this. And Savjz has decided not to. It looks like he's going to set up the Bran to try and Kazaka's next turn, hoping that it doesn't get answered. But we can see the Shadow Bolt in hand for Ostkaka.
Yeah, and I'm curious if Ostkaka is going to keep holding on to this Doomsayer for much longer, because going into Savjz turn 5, what is the Doomsayer really accomplishing other than making sure that you could land a 6-drop?
Yeah, which in this case is exactly where he's going with that.
It's sort of, but Sylvanas can be really important in this matchup with either Shadow Flame or with the Power Overwhelming, so that he's got to think about the sacrifices he's making. I'm curious how much tempo value is being put on each player's side right now.
Yeah, I think as well with Doomsayer, its use into the late game has dramatically fell off because not many players are playing Twisted Nether anymore, so you don't get that turn 10 Twisted Nether Doomsayer buy a turn, like,
right.
you know, buy a full 10-mana turn for yourself. So I do like this play, just slow it down and try and grab the initiative. And there are minions to play. There is the Sylvanas.
Could still
There's
easily just be a life tap. Like
yeah,
life
well,
tap
there's
for-
Gang Boss, right? So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can just drop a Gang Boss down. It's kind of annoying to deal with.
And you got the Mistress of Mixtures on top to actually heal yourself to full. I mean, he did keep it on turn 1 to start life tapping and keep as big a hand as he could.
The thing for me to look at is the difference between the Dirty Rat advantage now, where Ostkaka played his very early on, went for the high risk, high reward, didn't pay off. The more minions that Ostkaka ends up playing this game, the more likely it is that Dirty Rat pulls a key piece.
Yeah.
And so that's really the consideration for the early game Dirty Rat versus the late game one a lot of times is, well, how much stuff has my opponent really used? If Ostkaka gets lucky and hits a key piece there, he could win the game simply because of that. And I think that's where his thought process is. But as this game continues to develop, the more he plays Mistress of Mixtures, the Sudden Fury Protector, the Imp Gang Boss, his hand's going to get thin.
Yeah, and you know, Leroy, Faceless, PO, almost all the time are cards you do not play until the game is over. So yeah, you know, they're the cards that are going to stick in the hand, as you said. So that's
Yeah, but there's something to be said about Alex Straza as well, being able to give you a Leroy win without necessarily having the Power Overwhelming and the like. He has a Soulfire in the deck. He's got the Power Overwhelming, but you might just need Faceless Leroy. If you lose, you know, something else, it's also okay. And it's also a pretty big body that the other Warlock has to answer.
Yep. And that's just an extra 8/8 as well. I mean, you have to consider, I'm curious what card has been cut from the build for Alex Straza, but an additional threat makes a big difference when you're talking about
I don't think we've
limited
seen
removal.
Blast Crystal Potion from
Not
Ostkaka.
yet. Yeah.
As far as I can remember having conversations with, I think Ostkaka hates Blast Crystal Potion.
So
Okay.
that could be one of the cards that he, you know, he's swapped out. He's the opposite of me in that respect, and I love
Have we
that
seen the
card.
Shambler from his deck?
Yes.
Faceless Shambler. I don't recall seeing a Faceless Shambler, but again, I've seen so many Reno Lock builds.
Yeah, I was
a lot
going
of
to
them
say,
blend together.
I thought I saw it in a mulligan, but I could easily be wrong. We've cast a lot of Reno Lock over the past 2 days.
We'll see. I mean, that's one of the cards that I think some players don't like as much as others, but it is very good against, in the mirror matches generally, if you get a good turn with an 8/8 and then get the Shambler on top.
Yeah, like,
it is very powerful.
Even just Twilight Drake, right?
Yeah.
If you turn 4 Twilight Drake, turn 5 Shambler, you pretty much just win a
Power
lot of the
Overwhelming,
time. There's
Shadow,
just
Power
there's
Overwhelming
nothing they can
Shambler.
do.
Just a very good card to have in combination with
He's
those
just
buffs.
shaking his head.
Well, this is Savjz's hand is one of those awkward ones where everything is answers and no questions in his hand, so he can't really do much. You know, even just playing the oh my god, what's the
Refreshment?
card? Refreshment vendor. There we go.
You can do it.
Funnel
Funnel
cakes.
cakes.
Yeah, well, I wanted to call it funnel cakes, but I was like, no, I'm going to try hard and get the name of the card
Don't do
right.
that.
And then failed miserably.
SeatStory
Yeah.
try hard, fails miserably.
Typical Raven.
Yeah.
Failing miserably since 1989.
Wow, that got too real.
It's your turn now, Nox. Me and Admirable have
It's my birthday today, man.
Oh,
I've been
happy
failing
birthday.
even longer than you.
How,
I don't believe you.
I
It
swear.
actually is. It actually
December
is.
17th is where I was born and raised.
Is where?
When? Whatever. Same thing. Failing miserably
Fail.
since 1989.
Touche. Touche. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Are you 89?
I'm
As in the
89.
year?
Yeah.
Ah, same.
Good.
Youngins.
Yeah. Admirable's, you're just full of wisdom.
That's what they call it, right? The beard correlates to wisdom.
You like
the bigger
you
the
like
beard, the more the wisdom.
fine wine, Admirable. You only get better with age.
Thanks.
Anytime.
That is the worst pickup line for Cougars ever.
Well, it's going to
You
work.
would know from experience.
Lady, you're like fine wine. You just get better with age. Just looks at you.
Wow,
I can totally see Nox just like with the fedora. And he's like, "My lady."
Arm lady.
Little tip of the hat.
All right, back to the game. So the Enforcer come down, and there's actually an open trade. Ostkaka did not take any of the attacks earlier that he could have, and instead opted to just go face and let Savjz answer this with an AoE of his own, which he found in the form of a 6/6. Again, one of the bigger minions in Savjz's deck, and his hand is looking kind of dry right now.
Tell you what, Ostkaka is really looking for Emperor Thorson, though.
Yeah, he's one Emperor away from a good time here.
Well, does that ever mean life tap here?
I wouldn't mind it. Life tap. I mean, what is he going to do with 8 mana this turn? Probably not a lot. So the full 8 mana, I mean. So and with the Abyssal Enforcer down as well, I just wouldn't even mind life tap into Sylvanas, right? Because you're trying to buy time to get Emperor. And, oh, well, this changed a few things, I guess. But you're trying to buy time to get Emperor, and any big threat you put on the board is asking Savjz to answer it and not do anything proactive himself.
Yeah. We haven't seen a Spellbreaker from either player, so I think in that aspect, Sylvanas may be even better in a spot like this one, where unless it's answered by a counter Sylvanas or a faceless PO, which honestly, if that happens, you're pretty happy since you're dodging combo. Looks pretty strong. Sylvanas just seems solid. Doesn't run into Siphon Soul with, too many drawbacks.
Yeah, I think the Abyssal Enforcer makes Sylvanas better, right?
Yeah.
Because of the health.
But there's also an argument to be made for not giving Sylvanas, so you still a 6/6 becomes a 6/1, and then they coil it since they haven't played it yet.
There's also an argument for just an 8/8 being a big dude.
That's a pretty big thing.
It does open up Demon Wrath onto the Mountain Giant with the Abyssal trade in, but it's an expensive trade for sure. I mean, with the life totals in the positions they are, Savjz, the pressure really matters at this point.
Well, all Ostkaka wants here is time, right? Because he has the kill. He pretty much almost has the kill pieces in his hand, and there's just the Emperor going on there to really open up his hand to some really crazy things, and all he needs is time, and if Savjz keeps answering these boards, Ostkaka is going to have that time. He can then follow up next turn with Sylvanas, have an awkward board for Savjz again, and then try and get into that Emperor.
Having flashbacks to WCA, where it was a decider for top 16, I think it was, or top 8. I don't remember. Savjz and I had to play, and we were playing a handlock mirror. And I actually got Jiraxxus down first, and that was when you didn't have a ton of burst in the deck.
Yeah.
And he got Jiraxxus down second, and he beat me anyway. And
It was bad, man.
That was one of the most disgusting, long, grueling games I've ever played in my entire life. But the way that Savjz is playing is honestly reminding me of that game. Where it was a slow and steady build, and he was just taking what felt like weak turn after weak turn after weak turn until eventually it all culminated into that one big moment where I realized I don't really have anything left, and he's got a Shadow Flame.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if the combo potential from Ostkaka is going to strip that away from Savjz right now, because there is opportunity for Alexstrasza right here. But if Alexstrasza happens and then Savjz is able to heal himself back up and deal with Alexstrasza, suddenly a lot of that burst potential for Ostkaka is lost at that point. So this is kind of like a weird dance that's taking place here. Like, when do you start to use your combo pieces? When have you waited too long? Because when you have this many combo pieces, your hand is also getting stripped of options.
Yeah, and as we can see there, Ostkaka's health was actually just under a large amount of pressure anyway. Savjz is sitting pretty at 27 for the moment, and I think Ostkaka was on, 14, 13?
Yeah, he was at 14, and the thing is, there's a 6/6 on the board he can't answer cleanly, which means, as a result of that he's going to be going down to 8, and that means Leroy and Power Overwhelming is a problem. Leroy faceless, so you have to be
that combo
worried.
we were talking about earlier? The Twilight Drake and the Faceless Shambler?
Something along those lines.
He's not going to quite go for it just yet. He's going to go with the second-rate Bruiser and trade off on the Reno. And so the value game, this is where Savjz, I think, is winning a lot of these matchups, is he just understands this aspect so well.
Is this just a Sylvanas Shadow Flame turn? Is this enough value?
I mean, you do get yourself a 4 or 5 at the end of the sequence.
And you clear the board, because all Ostkaka wants to do is open up that board, right? He does not want taunts in the way of this combo that he pretty much has. He has Alexstrasza follow-up. This is really nice, as even as a 4/5 to Twilight Guardian is not... Twilight Drake is not the easiest minion in the world to clear up.
Well, you haven't seen Emperor, so right now you're probably not feeling too... Oh, there's also the Kazakus 5-mana potion with Coil that cleans up the board, right?
Yeah, I'm genuinely surprised we've not seen the Kazakus come out yet from Savjz. I think it's because he's mainly been on the back foot for most of this matchup, always been the more defensive player here. But I feel like Kazakus is what Savjz needs to make his big push now that Reno is gone.
Yeah, I'm curious if he's just been waiting to get more information and see where he needs to go with this. If Ostkaka's pressuring his life total, Savjz is likely to know he's got Alexstrasza if he's watched the previous games. And so because of that, how relevant could the armor from the Kazakus Potion be. You know, I feel like that he's got a pretty strong grip on the value with Blast Crystal Potion, with just the extra minions.
Or even just like imagine the armor and polymorph.
He's taking a 10 here.
Wow. So he wants what, the res or the damage?
The res could bring out Doomsayer, which I think.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know what he wants. He waited so long to play this. That he wanted information.
With Leroy, with Reno gone, I think you don't mind the 8 damage.
You'll go 8 damage with
6
the
to all
damage to
minions
board.
and gain 10 armor.
So the armor,
defensive play.
Yeah. So the armor, a concern to him again. If he's able to handle Alexstrasza, keep himself healed to a certain amount, and then extend beyond that life total with the extra armor, that is a win condition, I think.
Well, the Mortal Coil finally finds something to do for Ostkaka. I feel like those 2 coils weren't drawn until much later in the game for both players. And
Do you still want to tap here?
to play the Emperor if you find it? I mean, you could start with Coil if you want.
Well, I don't mind tap because even if you can still coil and then you can still either play an Emperor off the second draw, or you just play the Twilight Drake on full, the full amount of health because you're on 10 cards.
I mean, I would probably start with Coil. That way I can play
Just cheaper.
Emperor and Farseer
Sure.
if need be.
Shambler.
To develop on the board.
Shambler's a pretty sick draw.
I like it. I just like Twilight Drake and Shambler here. Although
Do you take the 6 damage or the 8 damage?
I would tap.
Oh, 6 damage to
I
the
would just
minions.
tap
Yeah,
here. I would tap all day.
Okay, so what this does as well is this is kind of conscious of, you've just seen Kazak's Potion. What if he has the polymorph board one? Because you can't go too crazy on board because you will lose if that's the kind of trade you go for.
Well, we could see a flip of the scenario we just saw from Ostkaka. Savjz with a similar play.
Is it enough though? Do you really want to Shadow Flame this board?
I think
say
killing
yes.
a 4/10, a 3/3,
But you have Blast Crystal.
and getting a 4/5. But the thing about it is he needs the Blast Crystal for the Alexstrasza turn. He needs to be able to Blast Crystal and Reno that same turn to get himself back to 30 so he doesn't die a combo, and then he wins the game with the Kazakus Potion, clearing the board and gaining that extra 10 armor. I think it's the game plan he's crafted, and so he needs to do this to keep it in line with that.
You convinced me, Admirable.
Yeah, I think Ostkaka's disdain for Blast Crystal Potion might be questioned after the Alexstrasza comes down and gets Blast Crystal into Reno.
Well, a
That
Kazakus of his own. Reno match is crazy, man.
I actually love watching Kazakus get played by, any reasonably good player because the options are always so interesting to me because there's so many of them, right? Even though we talked a lot yesterday and the day before about the power of the 1-mana potion options as well, and I think it's so cool seeing the different plays because like Savjz even going for 10 mana was genuinely surprising to me.
5 mana seems really good here because you can get the 5 damage one to kill the minion and then maybe the armor gain on top of that.
Those are not good options that Ostkaka was presented with. So we'll take a look at what it was
How good is the freeze?
once the potion's made. His potion.
Oh, hang on. Is there any world in which you're okay with 2 demons?
I mean, he might be at this point because
It's
Well,
just
you have
tough
8
to play.
You have 8 cards in hand though, so you'd have
potion
to
is just
play it later on.
miserable.
He's got 6 mana though, right?
I don't mind the armor, but sure.
So you can get.
I think the armor is just
polymorph
very
for
reasonable.
random enemy.
And gains
Okay.
7 armor. So
Is the 4/5 enough of a polymorph though? I
Of
guess
course,
so.
there's very little left in that deck that's going to be bigger than this, really.
you're giving up your Kazakus if you don't do this.
Yeah, it's just the scary part is Savjz has a potion of his own, and what if his potion reses 3 minions?
Yeah, Doomsayer,
You
go.
like-
I don't think you res. I don't think you res at that
there's
stage.
a polymorph guy in
That's
there.
too
There's
much.
the extra
Ah,
imps
okay.
from the Imp King boss in there. There's the Doomsayer that's there. There's a lot of poor options on the res, honestly. An Emperor gets drawn for Savjz.
Here we go. Do we drop it here? I
Slam
feel like we
that
do.
If you were not playing Emperor here, you should just not be playing this deck.
You should just not be playing Hearthstone. Uninstall.
So Savjz is calculating. So what happens if there's, let's say, Leroy and the Power of Whelming
Oh, he's
plus
scared of lethal.
Soulfire?
Oh, wow.
Because
Maybe
Leroy.
Yeah, Admirable jumped the gun.
Hang on. No. So Leroy Faceless is
12.
that's 12 damage. So 3 on board. Wait, what does he die to? I don't understand.
I can't think of it lethal because I'm looking at this like Leroy PO Soulfire,
Yeah, I don't
and that
get
is
this.
still 17 total, so you're still at 2 health left. So you'd have to find 2 damage within the remaining 3 mana that he's got.
And there's no potion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no one, the one
1 mana damage
3
through,
damage
yeah.
potion. Huh.
So a Peddler plus 1 cost spell, perhaps. That would be the only thing. Abusive Sergeant would kill you off of Peddler. Soulfire number 2 if it doesn't get discarded.
I'm playing
That's
Emperor
really,
there.
that's a very big stretch.
I'm
yeah.
playing Emperor there.
I think the issue there was the Emperor needs to be played, right, this game. Like, it needs to be played. And now everything feels like it's going to be a turn behind for Savjz.
You know, that Noxious actually makes an interesting point here now that I'm thinking about it, which is if he goes with the Demon Wrath this turn and prevents himself from dying to like even the most extreme situations, then he can go into Emperor and Faceless Shambler if he really needs to.
Yeah.
So that actually could have delayed it and just trying to prevent the very minuscule differences from Dark Peddler. I mean, now I feel bad because I told Savjz he shouldn't be playing this deck.
I mean, he is still missing Power of Whelming, right? So the Emperor had to be played. The issue is, like, the discount didn't win the game right away yet. And, I mean, Ostkaka's still sitting at 35 health, so we've got a few more turns before Savjz feels like he can win the game on the back of it.
I think the key, though, is there's the power of the discount plus the fact that Emperor needs to be killed, right? Like, Emperor, Ostkaka cannot be like,
Let's live it.
It's only 5 damage.
Yeah. It's only 5 damage and like, you know, what, 5 innovates or something like absolutely ridiculous. But this, how good is just Mountain Giant Shambler here? I don't know.
I like this play. That sets up a very safe Emperor on the follow-up.
I'm guessing that Life Tap might be off the menu for Savjz at this point. If you take a look at the deck totals, Ostkaka has 4 cards, and Savjz still has 7 cards in deck. So that actually could be a real consideration here, too, is that when he's gaining the armor, that he just doesn't intend to life tap the rest of the game. His hand is very heavy right now.
Yeah. And Shambler is in Ostkaka's deck, as I've just saw.
Ostkaka's hand is also pretty heavy if you look at this. He's got 10 cards, and none of them are really playable on this type of board.
His Emperor's his bottom 4 cards.
Yeah, Emperor being in the bottom 4 is so rough for Ostkaka, but also just, I mean, we've had this knowledge pretty much all game, especially based on how Savjz has been playing, but that Blast Crystal just checkmates out Alex Strauzer, like, so hard. There's Blast Crystal and a play.
The Blast Crystal Reno is the big key there, so Ostkaka...
Reno Blast Crystal.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're talking about burst when this Emperor gets picked up.
I think it does.
No,
right? Does it not remove a
You
crystal?
spend 4 mana and you blow up a crystal, so you have 6 left.
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's how it works.
Okay.
I don't know, but I'm willing to bet.
I know. I know you're right.
I know you would be. I know you had
20 euros all in.
That's 2 power overwhelmings as well. So that's 28 damage plus the Soulfire from hand for Ostkaka. He can have 32 burst from hand.
Time to Hellfire, ladies and gents.
There we go.
The time has come to play cards on the board.
Oh my god.
On Earth?
He's trying to wear down the health of his opponent, is what it's
He knows with the 32
here.
from hand that if he just gets past it, he's okay.
Well, he needs Emperor anyway, right?
Yes, but he does have to get the life total down to a spot where he can actually 32.
That's what the 1/1's for.
Whoa, this is weird.
Chip away.
I mean, he could have played Shambler, but that means, like, if he played Shambler on the Dark Peddler,
Well,
then Savjz Hellfired for him.
You know
I
what's
guess.
kind of great, though? Have we seen there's Hellfire for Savjz, right? But Hellfire does the damage to Savjz anyway, so there's no good way to deal with this 1/1.
Yeah.
I think we've seen Coil, right?
It's a 1/1. I think you just play Emperor Thorson and basically anything.
but then the 1/1's a 1/5. To a large extent. You know what I mean? Like the damage. So
Sure.
Ostkaka is so safe because of this taunt. It sounds really stupid.
I don't think he is safe. I think the danger here is the fatigue battle. Savjz is winning that. And he's got a game plan to offset Alex Strauza plus a full combo.
But when do you play this Faceless Shambler if you're not going to play it then? Like when?
There is no
Alex-
target in the deck.
Alex Strauza doesn't live a turn, or you win anyway, so who cares? The combo is the combo, which you win anyway, so who cares? Like, I don't mind putting up a taunt here. I think this is kind of funny. It could soak 8 damage. It's so sick.
Again, I'm not really sure that's the concern. I think that as far as Savjz is concerned, he's like, yeah, soak all the damage you want. He could be running a 30-30 into it. I don't think he'd mind that
He
much.
needs to tap. Tap into Emperor or Siphon this turn.
There's Twisting Nether on Savjz's side as well to reset if things go wrong. Just open up the board to get the combo together.
I mean, where does Ostkaka win this game? That's my question right now. Savjz has everything to answer.
I mean, if you just OTK from hand straight up, you kill the minion and then you just go Emperor on the board and then the minion dies. The issue is going to be the...
I just don't know where that's coming from.
Okay, so let's see the Emperor come down. Then you have to kill the Emperor, right? And then you have to heal up at the same time. And the only way you do that is...
Step one is dealing with 16 power on board.
Yeah.
This is really bad for Ostkaka.
It's one of the worst case scenarios, actually. You could use a Power Overwhelming here if you wanted, right? And smash 5 and then play the Enforcer. That's one approach right now to help stabilize a bit.
Savjz's like health total, he's dead to the combo, right? So he doesn't need Alex Strauza. So there's 1 turn saved. If he draws Emperor this turn, and this is only helping, if he draws Emperor this turn, Oh, but is he just dead anyway?
That's what I'm wondering. Like,
Yeah.
Just did.
He's actually. He needs to play. Yeah, I mean, Savjz going to play something else. Savjz can even just drop Reno now. You're going to end the game next turn, right? That's the plan.
I don't like dropping the Reno. Why wouldn't you drop the Emperor and then threaten with the Leroy Faceless power overwhelming? I don't understand this.
Well, the whole board needs to be cleared up.
But what does he die to here?
Yeah,
Like, there's no reason to play this Reno. This Reno could be something that does lose him the game.
There isn't only 18 off of no Emperor play, right? There's only 18. There can't be... Because you have, like, Leroy
It literally
PO.
can't deal the damage to kill him. If he has Leroy PO Soulfire, that's 18 damage, and he's safe from that. There's literally no reason to play the Reno Jackson over the Emperor Thorson here, because the Emperor Thorson sets up his own kill. So then Ostkaka has to worry about the combo, and he's got to worry about setting up the combo against Savjz, and he's got to worry about the 8-5 plus the Emperor on board.
Yeah, Shadow Flame's already gone as well, right? So
For both players.
I was wondering whether the 6 health on the Reno was worth more than the 5 on the Emperor.
No.
But with Shadow Flame gone...
Like Fellfire Potion may be a concern.
Yeah.
But even in the face of Fellfire Potion, that drops Ostkaka down to 14, and you have Leroy Power Faceless.
And there we go. Board clear will happen. Ostkaka will play the brand with the Abyssal Enforcer, and the Enforcer will live at 13
And now
health.
suddenly-
he is safe.
Savjz is looking like he could lose this game, and he draws Dirty Rat.
So he needs to Dirty Rat out Leroy.
Now we're going to see the Emperor come out.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. I was wondering whether you just, at this point in the game, Dirty Rat twisting.
I think we blast Crystal in the back of this one.
Okay, sure.
We've committed to
You
not
can still
dealing with
Dirty
Alex
Rat next
Straza.
turn.
We've committed to not dealing with Alex after we Reno this early, right? We've kind of committed to that line of play.
So now, dropping the Emperor accomplishes a similar goal to what just happened, where Ostkaka cannot kill Savjz. He basically can't kill the Emperor. He has to be concerned with his own life total.
Checkmate.
He has no cards left in deck. I don't see a way that he can win this game. Savjz, I think, has checkmated him.
Yeah.
Kind of regardless of the way it went.
And also as well, you could even be pretty confident that either the last 1 to 2 cards was Emperor, because there was no way there would have been a Shambler dropped and not Emperor, right? You know, there's like no way at all.
So looking at this spot in hindsight, Savjz had a different way to win the game. He just found another way to win it. Instead, it led to the same place.
They both lead to the play at 1, 2, 3, and then the opponent just can't play into any of your.
He had it mapped kind of regardless of the way it went, and so Savjz gonna win game number 3 and keep himself alive
with the Reno luck. Not a surprise. Savjz has played a lot of this deck.
Oh,
if anyone
man.
at home doesn't know.
Look at Ostkaka's hand and feel bad for it, because this is a nuts hand if it just went off. That hand looks so
Last
good.
card Emperor.
That's, I mean, yeah, I think that's almost the story of that game.
Yeah.
If Emperor was in the
Bottom
the
5?
10th from bottom,
Yeah.
5th from bottom, maybe that that does change actually everything. And Savjz is probably dead, but it's the way the cards roll sometimes.
Yeah, I think Savjz also identified that there was no Emperor, right? And that's the reason the Reno
just would have
felt
been
rather
played,
safe.
yeah.
You know, when you see this line of play, you're thinking to yourself, okay, now I can play Reno early, and there's not going to be any punish, because Alex Straza still gives me the win.
Now we're going to go into the next game.
Yeah,
It's
speaking
going
of
to be
Alex,
the Reno versus Ostkaka's Freeze Mage. And this matchup has altered somewhat since the expansion. I think mainly due to Kazakus being one of the key ones, and also the Dirty Rat can pull out some of the key cards from the Freeze Mage.
Yeah, I think it was Stan Sifka and Ostkaka actually. Ostkaka had bet Stan Sifka he could win 8 out of 10 games of Freeze Mage versus Reno, and I think the
Sifka run, right?
well, I think the bet probably ended at 2-3 in favor of Sifka. But Ostkaka is a very well-versed Freeze Mage player. But you mentioned, I think, the 2 biggest things that's happened since Main Streets, which is number 1, Kazakus and the ability to get extra armor from that. And then number 2 is Dirty Rat. If you hit Alex Straza from your opponent's hand, or you can snag Emperor and prevent the discount, that could buy you a lot of time. Even hitting Evolved Kobold to save a lot of damage.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Because Evolved Kobold is one of the newer additional cards to the Freeze Mage list of old. Because Freeze Mage has been around for a very, very long time. And that opens up the capability of literally OTKing someone. So, Reno doesn't count, right? You literally just take them out. And I'm about giggling because that appears to be, as far as my eyes don't deceive me, a gold shy of Footman.
Ready for action!
I guess there's another line too with the Reno lock, which kind of plays like Handlock, where you just drop a big Twilight Drake early, drop a big Mountain Giant. Hello, go. Deal with this. And the Freeze Mage will struggle, has to basically juggle removal spells for a few turns while he kills off 1 or 2 minions.
Also as well for Kazakus, the armor is the big shout-out portion of the spell against Freeze Mage, but also, let's just create an 8/8. You know, you can make the huge demon and say, well, keep freezing it, or it's going to punch you in the face, and there's going to be some problems here.
Well, he's picked up
Dirty Rats.
some big keys there.
Let's do it! Nothing good to pick up.
I'm always really surprised about the Dirty Rat.
Savjz can't believe it. Have a free card draw, friend, because let's be honest, Ostkaka's loot hoarder, he isn't bothered about that doing damage anyway. He just wants to cycle.
I'm really surprised that we're seeing the Dirty Rats into Doomsayers this way, because if they're able to hold on to him, Ostkaka needs to use his minions for card draw. If Savjz waits until Ostkaka plays in a way where he goes, you know what, Alex Shaza may be the play here, then you just play Dirty Rat.
I think as well, because Savjz has Blast Crystal. So, you know, that's 6 mana. Instead of saying, well, I'm going to Dirty Rat an Emperor or Alex Straza, then hope I can deal with it, it's like, well, it's 6 mana to guarantee kill anything in the game.
You know, I haven't done the math on playing a Dirty Rat into a Doomsayer. I think that there is a lot of a justification for it. It's just very apparent. I'm just curious if they're ever getting blinded to the value of it versus
to
the
like
potential
just
of it.
like snap play as opposed to go, oh, well, what is this actually worth at this point in this game?
I think a lot of the problems that come with it is, you know, when the Doomsayer is set up for you, you don't have to try and set up any removal, so you're not expending more of your resources, and there's a chance you snag one of many pieces that are essential for that deck to operate well.
That's what I'm getting at, is the math of playing it early. I don't know exactly what it is, but to me, like, my intuition tells me this is worth it.
Yeah.
But is it worth more?
Later.
Yeah. Like, it's worth a lot. It's clearly worth a lot.
And especially as well, in Freeze Mage specifically, all of the key cards you want to hit with Dirty Rat have their effect when they're played as well. Their threat isn't the minion, it's the effect they have. So you really want to pull those to negate that battle cry or, you know, Emperor's tick of the mana reduction. So they're big ones, and Savjz kind of whiffed a little bit there, or heavily with
this Abyssal Enforcer here.
It seems pretty good to me. You just want to apply as much pressure as you can. If he goes for Forgotten Torture on your face, there might be burn in that hand. You didn't pull anything but Loot Hoarder, so maybe you've got some idea that this hand is packed full of burn.
So the idea here is that you can counter-race burn. If Ostkaka throws more burn at your face here, you drop Reno, smack him for 14,
Exactly.
and go, you go ahead.
Yeah. Enjoy, Frank.
I think Ostkaka might also be told with that coin enforcer, hey, there's Reno in my hand. I don't mind taking damage. Throw more spells my way.
Not only that, but like he does have to consider the potential of just like Leroy power overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's an extra 10 there and then 14 on board. Like you could die,
You could die.
like pretty reasonably. And this extra 6/6 on board means that Emperor's a lot harder to play.
Yeah, it's something you don't have to trade into with your Giant, so that gives you an extra thing to
I actually like
worry about.
Emperor this turn sick.
I do like it as well. It's just difficult.
Emperor this turn could just win the game.
Do you ever just Ice Lance, or do you... Because the Ice Lance represents more damage, but it seems like your hand contains enough burn to kill without Ice Lance.
I think I'm going with the Emperor here because of the Fireball.
You just win.
Ice Lance.
Yeah, you just
so
kill him
you're
if he doesn't
forcing
heal.
Savjz to have a Kazakus into armor or like a brand refreshment vendor or a Reno Jackson here.
And the thing as well is the armor is still relatively small from Kazakus because it has to be a 1 mana if you want to do that turn. And also, are you really going to like heavily heal this turn?
You gotta have...
It's hard, right? Like, how many times on turn 7 has Freeze Mage got this much burn and the Emperor?
How many times on turn 7 is Freeze Mage playing Emperor Thoros on here instead of freezing your board?
Yeah, true.
Not even ice blocking, not ice barriering, not freezing, nothing.
Yeah.
Just straight up cost
But the only
reduction.
difference is as well that Savjz might think Ostkaka's playing the Emperor because he feels he needs to do something big next turn to deal with this threat. Because to go again, how many times does Reno lock pressure down a Freeze Mage with these minions?
And that's the beauty of the way that these games are being played between these two players, is they're making plays that can be interpreted so many different ways, and they've all had the answers to those situations. That's the crazy thing to me. I mean, Ostkaka didn't have the Emperor last game, and that was checkmate for Savjz. But in this game, Savjz could very easily interpret this as well, I'm Ostkaka, I'm desperate right now, I need to start drawing cards and freezing the board so I can set up an ice block. Maybe I don't need to Reno this turn.
But here's the problem.
Is he just dead if he doesn't Reno?
But here's the issue.
Yes,
he is dead if he doesn't Reno, but assuming he thinks this is just kind of a bluff, even if he Renos, if it's a bluff but there's Alex, you lose to your own Reno.
okay, wow,
Because Alex
so-
gets reduced to 8.
So Savjz is going for the Reno, which is going to keep him alive. So
Yeah.
he did the single correct answer he could have chosen there.
And Alex Straza won't win the game here because Savjz just can crack back. This is, I mean, look at the board.
Yeah.
Alex Straza is leaving Ostkaka stranded.
Blizzard is a huge pickup here for Ostkaka.
Right, it is.
Huge.
But Savjz's perspective with that Reno Jackson is it almost doesn't matter what Ostkaka has at this point. He's got to start stalling because there's a lot of pressure back behind this.
Yep.
And Ostkaka's thinking that exact same thing. What happens if there's burst from hand?
Yeah.
What happens if Savjz can extend this? What happens if he's got Brand Refreshment Vendor?
Oh my goodness.
He needs
There's
to
the
pick up-
Ice Lance to stall here. That can work.
So
Well, I'm
Blizzard-
curious if the Ice Block, Ice Barrier is the play he's going for. With the Ice Lance picked up and the ping here, does he need to Ice Lance even?
No, I think he wants the Ice Lance for the extra burst, right?
I'm not sure. I
you
mean,
Alex face, you don't need it.
with the Ice Block down, all he has to do is prevent himself from getting the block popped this turn.
okay.
And so Savjz would need 13 or 14 from hand to pop the block and have a reasonable amount of pressure afterwards. So with the zero-cost Ice Lance, even if the block gets popped, then Ostkaka can play Alex Straza and use the zero-cost Ice Lance to freeze out the Mountain Giant. So him having this turn where he's able to develop the Ice Block is the big key here, and
It buys
this is
him
probably
the
going to
turn.
win him.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
game.
yeah. It buys him the turn, and that's what Freeze Mage is all about: buying X amount of turns that you need to win the game. And this is 26 in hand, right?
That's a lot of damage.
Well, that what's key is that's a lot of damage off the back of Alex Straza.
Yeah, 26.
Because you can expect, like, maybe at most the Brand Farsi, right, for an additional 6. That's only 21. Like, Ostkaka's almost pushing Savjz into checkmate. And we can see the votes. This was fantastic. This is a live voting. It was all Savjz very quickly, and now he's just tipped the scale to be like, okay.
Everyone was waiting to vote to see if he played Rito,
Yeah.
and then as soon as he played Rito, everyone started voting Savjz. So then
5
Ostkaka-
damage, 7 armor.
Ostkaka draws Alex Straza, and everyone's like,
Who's winning this now?
Oh, but the torch as well. Wow.
Well, the torch is making
This is just game, right?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean,
Well,
if you just
go
pitch
through the
Alex
motions.
Straza
it's
face.
going to depend on Savjz's draw, right? Because if he draws
Brand?
He
3,
Can he-
he doesn't have the mana to play the,
hang
the
on, hang on.
Earthring Farseer alongside of it.
Yeah, he's still so he can heal for 3 with the Farseer and play the potion for the 7.
18,
but that's only
25.
25. It's
Yeah.
not enough, so it's just too much damage. Oof.
To save a brew in the deck, like a useful brewmaster.
Voodoo Doctor for +2. Put him to 27.
I'm trying to think. If
Peddler
there's-
into Voodoo Doctor.
I'm trying to think if there's any way Savjz can get out of this, but I don't.
The ice block being live.
He needed 1 more mana to be able to pick up
Huh?
Bran.
We're going full 30 here, trying to force some heals before
Ostkaka-
the Alex.
Yeah, he's trying to set up a different way to win as well, which is since he has the burst from hand here, he's going to do a check for healing right now.
Yeah.
Because
Oh my
he's
God.
got
because of the torch, right?
yeah, because he's still got 12 plus 8. 12 plus 8 plus 6.
And with the ice block, he ain't getting proc this turn, right? With that combined with the blizzard,
Right.
He almost certainly isn't getting proc this turn, so it buys him 1 additional turn just to pull out some healing. And also the cool thing there is just the freeze burn to face says, I'm gonna kill you.
Well,
you
this
know?
is interesting now because if Savjz plays Brand and Earthring Farseer, he goes back to 30, which means that Ostkaka, if he doesn't kill the Brand, that Savjz can then play the Refreshment Vendor, go from 15 up to
24,
20 to 23, and then play the Kazakus Potion and go back to 30. So Ostkaka actually needs to kill this Brand here as well as stall the board, as well as set Savjz down to
torch will do it.
15. Well, he doesn't have the mana to cast all that, though. So if he Alex Strazes this turn, the block's getting popped. And now Savjz has Refreshment Vendor plus the Kazakus Potion to go back up to 30.
Wow. So did Ostkaka just need to Alex the previous turn
I'm
and not
curious
do the
if this is.
tester?
I think this might have been a mistake.
Ooh.
How often do you what are the odds of getting the armor potion? Right, it's below 50%, I believe. Right, because you see
The
it
thing
3
about
times.
it is it's not the armor potion; it's consideration on mana. If Savjz had Bran plus the healing,
yeah,
Ostkaka still had lethal.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if he has this way, it means that that Savjz can have this turn, and then he has to kill a Brand. If he doesn't kill the Brand, then Savjz gets more turns to heal back up.
Because
He's thinking about using Ice Lance here, I think,
I don't know.
to kill the Brand. But if he does that, then does he have the burst to kill Savjz over the next couple turns? This is a really complicated situation.
I was just thinking, is there any heal that keeps him alive? Because Savjz wasn't on 10, so you can't brand double heal minion. So you couldn't have done that. And then the potion is 7, but if you play potion to 7, he could gain 10.
Savjz is going to go back up here. He's going to pop the block.
Wow, this is crazy.
I don't think you popped the block because you do need to kill the Alex.
He should have popped the block before playing the refreshment vendor, maybe. Because now he's not killing the Alex.
He's going to have to Siphon Soul then? And he's not going to play the potion. Is that what it means? Or is he playing around the fact that there's not going to be any AoE in that spot? Because he can deal 5 damage to the...
So that kills the Alex
with the Farseer, right?
With the Farseer.
Yeah.
Okay, so he gets to kill the Alex. Killing the Alex was the important part here. But now how much damage is this? This is 12 plus 3, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. So over 2 turns, Ostkaka has 30 damage, but he can't suffer a damage. He can freeze the board, but then Savjz has damage from hand. So Ostkaka just lost this game.
And now the vote's gone all the way back to Savjz. God, how fickle you viewers are.
There's like 2 guys voting, right?
This game has been absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I can't believe the amount of healing that Savjz clutched, basically. That was a clutch heal.
Yeah, so, you know, what I like to do with Freeze Mage sometimes when I'm casting it, I'm not the best Freeze Mage player in the world at all. I'm always like, so, laughing, tweet at us and let us know if the Freeze Mage, that turn from Ostkaka with the Fireball face was correct in terms of the long-term plan, or if it was always correct to just go Alex Strauser and go hard.
I think
I really don't know which one's better. I like Ostkaka's reasoning with the options and maybe the surprise damage, but I like the Alex Strauser because I don't see a counterplay.
Yeah, I thought Alex Strauser was just checkmate regardless of what Savjz could do with the mana he had available.
Right.
I thought it was because he didn't have 10 mana, so he couldn't brand Farseer and Refreshment Vendor, right? So that is impossible at that point. So I thought that Alex Strauser was just guaranteed checkmate. Especially because he drew the torch that turn as well.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think the torch was actually the reason that he made that play, because he was looking at his hand like, I'm going to go Alex and go full face. The torch comes up and he says, oh, I can bluff, bait some heal, then Alex. Because suddenly I picked up 6 damage, but it went wrong when the healing showed up with exactly the brand.
But my thought is, I kind of thought the other way of having the damage you need almost guaranteed, and then worst case, because you've already seen the full heal, worst case, they heal a little bit, then next turn you have torch plus whatever you draw and ping. So, you know, I don't know. Like, laughing, get me that tweet. Just to confirm.
All right, on the Freeze Mage God.
That was one of the craziest games I've seen all year long.
That was nuts. And Savjz, you know, whether it was down to Ostkaka's slight misstep or not, you know, winning with the Reno lock again, and can he reverse sweep with this Reno lock, the deck he's been having by far the most success with.
And now the final test.
Yeah, I have to wonder though, like,
Shaman for Ostkaka.
We need to do the math on the Kazakhstan potions though, because every time they come up, like I look at 7 armor, I think it's above 50% to find that one option. Finding the 5 damage and, you know, the armor gain there to kill the Alex was a little bit below 30. Like, I just need to look at all the math of getting a specific possible potions.
I'm telling you, me personally, what I'm doing, if it's physical cards, I would have taken that Alex Strauss in my hand. I just stood up, done a 360, and windmilled my arm behind my head, and slammed it on the table, and
I play Alex Strauss.
Go. Yeah.
You need to do the full, like, anime style, like, and it's my turn.
Grandpa, why'd you put this card in your deck?
There are no pathetic heals in my father's deck, Ostkaka.
This card is useless.
I always love how, like, they're at the World Championship, like, competing for control of the universe. And his opponent plays a card, and he's like, oh, what is that?
Yeah,
like,
he's like,
you don't know what the new cards do, bro?
It's Pot of Greed. It lets me draw 2 cards. Like, what?
I love it as well that there's even somewhere that there's like, oh my God, this person he's the only person in the world with this deck. What company prints one set of cards?
Yeah.
One deck. It's like, what? That's not allowed.
Yeah, why don't you just craft it?
I literally just draw on cards and make my own deck and be like, yes, this is overpowered, thank you.
It's like 1 mana killed the opponent. I made this myself.
So Finley into life tap with Totem Golem is the opener here for Ostkaka. Shadowbolt's going to answer the Totem Golem. But with 2 Spirit Claws, Maelstrom Portal, Feral Spirit in hand, there is not a lot of pressure coming from Ostkaka very soon. I mean, I'm looking at potential with coin Feral Spirits prior to this small-time Buccaneer draw. I mean, what's the take on this one? Savjz's hand looks like it's lining up pretty nicely for this game.
Yeah, I think the Demon Wrath is lining itself very well. The issue is you often just want to have the ability to play Hellfire against Shaman specifically. When they get to the Feral Spirit Tunnel Trog turns, you want to have something there. I haven't seen in Ostkaka's list the 4-mana 7/7 yet. Some people have been cutting it for Azure Drakes, so we still need to see whether or not he's running those.
I'm still waiting for Blizzard to change the name of that card to 4-mana 7/7.
Flamer the Faceless. I mean, at this point...
I would love it if they literally changed the name of the card. It just I play 4-mana 7/7, done.
They play an apostrophe, they put an apostrophe, like a FOR apostrophe mana, so just like gives it a fantasy name.
Yeah.
I could see that.
The age-old debate between second-rate Bruiser and Demon Wrath. I would say versus Shaman, you give the nod to Demon Wrath more often than not, because second-rate Bruiser on that board means that Flame Tongue is a beautiful play for Ostkaka. So if he plays the Flame Tongue down, the Small Time Buccaneer trades over, and then suddenly he's pushing 6 damage.
Yeah, and also as well, the Demon Wrath outside of totems has very few direct kill targets in Shaman. A lot of the minions are like 3+. So, you know, getting that off now, whereas the second-rate Bruiser, even as a 5-drop, can actually get a good amount of work done.
Yeah, it's more of, I think, as like a stabilizing tool when Savjz has gotten a little bit more
You
information.
just drop it down. Yeah.
Rather than the immediate pressure for it. So I actually like going for the Demon Wrath there.
And as well, the Shaman is always going to go wide, right? Like, always. It's not a class you can afford to just drop a single minion and, you know, like, make it work unless it's a 4-mana 7/7.
Well, I mean, MC Tech's looking pretty good on this wide board.
That's another benefit, and I'm curious if he's...
I think you go for it every time.
Well, I'm curious at what he's adding alongside of it. So now the Wolf is challenged, and it looks like he's just going to go with the Ooze to get max pressure out and hope to set up a trade onto this Flame Tongue Totem in the coming turns. And Ostkaka's got his work cut out for him because this is quickly building up to a very overcomable situation for Savjz. With the Abyssal Forcer in hand, with the Siphon Soul in hand, and he's still at 20. This is looking pretty good.
When Reno Lock against Shaman can have 2 to 3 of their good cards in the opening, it's huge.
And Savjz, you can see him smiling. And Savjz, you can't quite see it on camera, but he's got his hands clutched right next to his heart. And he was rubbing them together like, yes, this is my time to shine.
Finger on the mouth like a villain. Like, what is this?
I only locked in my other 2 decks because I could. Really, I always planned to 3-0 with Reno Lock.
They gave me 4 decks. I needed 1. You let it through.
You fool. I mean, the Feral Spirit's going to be really tough against Abyssal Enforcer. If Savjz can get to a stable situation, I think he's got this game locked up.
Yeah, and he has second-rate Bruiser to do that if he wants. He can actually, he's comfortable enough with that Mistress of Mixtures down to just play the Emperor next turn if he really wants to, because he's going to get that heal.
I think the damage going to face may change a little bit of this. But
I don't know.
Well, I mean, we'll have to see what's going on. I mean, this is a tough turn. Siphon Soul onto Flame Tongue Totem, or even onto the Wolf here. I think this is actually really clever. So now he gets to wipe out the Flame Tongue Totem. He's still at 20. He's got 4 more health coming from the Mistress of Mixtures.
And he's got a board clear coming up on turn 7.
I actually didn't even see that as a reasonable spot. But now suddenly, anything that Ostkaka plays that has less than 3 health, Savjz is massively swinging the board at that point.
Yeah, this is kind of nuts. With the heal as well is absolutely insane.
I think Ostkaka's got to find life taps here and possibly forego development.
You need to
try
find
to
the
get this game
burn.
done.
Yeah, I think.
And if he plays Feral Spirit instead of playing Totem Golem, that's a problem.
Yeah, you feel like you're putting out more damage to the Feral Spirit, but the truth of it is, at this point, what matters most is that your board lives, right?
But yeah, okay, he's killing my control tag. I was like,
thought the
well,
same.
if he doesn't kill that. He's thinking about Abyssal Enforcer very specifically.
He's not wrong. Now, the Emperor does
Savjz
look
can faceless
very
the
safe.
Mistress. More heals.
You're laughing now, but
It's almost like he heard you say that.
He was like,
He's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yes,
wait a
I
minute.
can.
Yo.
I could Sun Fury this and get more health.
Yeah, faceless Sun Fury.
I do like the Emperor Thoris on here. 3, 4, 5, 6 damage available for Ostkaka. So even in the face of double Lava Burst, Savjz would be okay in this situation. Ooh. There's the Flame Wreath Faceless.
And we saw Siphon Soul a lot earlier in the game, so this is getting...
But no, look at the answer. Faceless Manipulator into Shambhala.
And
2 4-mana 7/7.
And Sun Fury Protector.
Oh my god.
This game is just full of 4-mana 7/7s.
I feel like that.
For all mana. That's what it'll be called. Be so good.
All right, so
this is...
yes, you're just Nothing feels amazing. Do you double trade, play the 7/7?
Well, imagine not killing the Emperor Thorson.
Yeah.
But now look at the life totals. Look at the hand. Imagine killing Emperor Thorson. Like, this is not good.
Oh, Thanos is okay.
I think you ignore it, right? Like, you might be at the point where you have to.
We're doing. Oh my gosh.
How many games have you won, Nox, where you've ignored Emperor for one turn?
I mean, against Reno Lock...
mine I'm pretty sure is 0.
Against Reno
starting
Lock,
at what rank?
what does it matter? No, but for real, like, against Reno Lock in the spot like this one where you're going to give him an extra 4 health, like, what does killing Emperor accomplish? Like, what does he play with discounts that doesn't kill you already?
I just asked the question.
Here, I am inclined to agree with you. I think that the damage push is probably his best bet, but this is going to hurt.
Plays around Nether by not playing the 7/7
This is
just yet.
really going to hurt.
I mean, there's a counter push for lethal coming up soon from Savjz onto Ostkaka at this point. But the thing is, you are taking some damage from the Enforcer, and there is, double lava burst would kill you, right?
He is definitely vulnerable to double lava burst in this spot.
Not anymore, but would have been a bit dangerous. The Shambler is looking really solid here.
He's got to get through this, and I don't know if there's the gas. He's going to need perfect draws.
Well, he's got the Blood Mage Lava Burst to go through that. He could play the South Sea deckhand to clean up the Emperor, and then he's left with the Totem Golem and the weapon, as well as a Blood Mage
down to
on
11,
board.
plus the weapon. Does the weapon protect the Blood Mage, Totem Golem, South Sea?
I think it does, yeah.
The Blood Mage and the Totem Golem, or does it actually go face for 3 damage?
I think you need to protect those minions, because you've seen Demon Wrath, you've seen the Abyssal Enforcer. There's only Hellfire left for AoE, alongside a Shadow Flame with a cheap minion, or a Twisting Nether. And you have the Twisting Nether, you have the 4-mana 7/7 coming right up, and there's only Blast Crystal Potion left for direct removal, so that could still hit face.
Yeah, I think I am a little in favor of protecting the Totem Golem in this spot.
Yeah, if it gets one attack in extra, it's kind of caught up with it, right?
Well, the other thing too, though, is say Savjz has more taunts. How much does that 3 damage to face mean? Because that's going to give you the out to draw Lightning Bolt, or Lava Burst Lightning Bolt, or Jade Lightning Bolt, or any combination of these burn spells. So I think there is some merit to going face, but there's also merit to protecting the Totem Golem. It depends on what he's fearing more.
Well, now that we saw the Emperor be left alive for 1 turn, there's a giant Faceless Shambler for 2 mana that could be played here.
That's also a benefit there, is that Refreshment Vendor could provide some reprieve here, but this is going to be the first up.
Yeah, I think you can wait, mainly because you've just seen a Lava Burst, right? So
step number 1 is taunt, and then step number 2 is recover. And Small Time Buccaneer,
it's too small time.
Not an exciting draw right now.
He needs to be a big time Buccaneer.
And if he doesn't kill this board, he is dead.
Yeah, he needs to at least kill the 8/8 on the right side.
And I'm not really sure what cards in the deck really kill these now.
What if Flame Reef Faceless had charge?
Okay.
If he gets a charge, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he's gonna need. He says 1 more draw from the Blood Mage here, but I think Savjz is closing in on the reverse sweep
with Reno Lock against an aggro Shaman, doing very well at the end there. What does he pick up? The Leper Gnome.
Leper Gnome's not good enough.
That's more damage though, but
that's
it's not enough.
That's not going to deliver damage. Savjz is going to reverse sweep Ostkaka in our first match of the day.
What a series that was.
And you can see how close that series was. We've been discussing throughout the whole series how tense, how crazy it was. Savjz just head in hands for just a second.
That was just worthy.
Yeah, just to take a breath for a second. Now he's like, yeah, I got this.
I mean, it was tiny things in this series that looked like they made potentially colossal differences in the match. But the story of the tournament for me, not only the return of a SeatStory Cup champion here, but the power that has been wielded with Reno Warlock and just the incredible performances. Savjz to complete the reverse sweep with the Reno Warlock. I mean, what's going through your head right now?
I mean, it's pretty good deck, I think.
That's an understatement.
I'm at 8-0 in the tournament right now with it.
That is unbelievable.
Did you just lock in the other 2 decks first just to give him a go and just get him out of the way so you could then sweep with Reno?
No, not really.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what to do with the Priest. I didn't practice it much, or I don't know. So I'm just like, okay, let's throw that one away. But then with the Rogue I actually had like pretty high hopes. I had my Beneath the Crowns deck for the Reno log and all that, but then I don't know. Maybe I should keep the Auctioneer.
It's a pretty poor hand. It was. I don't think keeping the Auctioneer is right personally. I don't think
it's right either because I didn't have anything to go with it. I think it's okay to keep it as like a Tomb Pillager and something more, but like I had nothing else. So.
Well, the interesting games clearly are in these Reno Warlock games. So in the Reno mirror.
Yes.
I looked like you knew that Alex Strauza was present, and you were trying to set up the Blast Crystal Reno turn.
Yeah.
But there was a
For a long time.
ton going on in that match. Can you walk me through anything that was going on through your head and exactly how much you're thinking about there?
Okay, first of all, I actually feel like I played that one. That was like the weakest one of the games that I played. Out of all, even the ones that I lost. Because there was some like really awkward turns on like 4, 5, 6 where I was just like, didn't play the Kazakus. I went for like coin tap and then just like, and then after that, I didn't have a play for next turn. I just like, by the way, I can't even Kazakus. My hand is full. So that was pretty bad. But yeah, in the end, I knew that there's Alex Strauza coming in and at some point when we had like 10-ish cards remaining, I realized that I don't actually like necessarily need to kill him. I'm probably like outblast him and just remove all of his threats. And I kind of picked the potion accordingly as well. They're going for the armor. It seemed like maybe the most fitting one. So again, like I adjusted my strategy, but in the end, like just before it ended, because I was waiting, like you mentioned that Reno Blast Crystal Potion, but then I realized that like if he plays Alex Strauza, he's gonna die. So I'm just like, I'm gonna play the Reno here, play perfectly safe in case there's like some kind of ridiculous peddler, extra Soulfire
Exactly
PO.
what we're talking about.
So I was playing around that a little bit, and I just felt like, okay, like if he plays Alex at any point, like I was kind of thinking like 2 turns ahead there, like what is the best play he can do here, and what is the best play he can do
Yeah,
next
because
turn.
there was
after
actually
that, so.
2 power overwhelming Soulfire reduced.
Yeah, I know he plays a
At the end
Soulfire.
there,
Yeah.
He didn't
At
have
the very
reduce.
end.
But the Peddler wasn't in hand yet, but it could have been played with 2 mana and had one left over.
So I was counting. I was thinking that okay, like worst case scenario, like the only way I lose this is I know he can deal 14 easily, like with the Leroy and Soulfire PO, and if he got an extra PO, that's another 4, and like if there's like a Hellfire to go along with, I don't know. I was just like, I guess that's 11 mana, so that wouldn't happen. But
Yeah,
still.
there was one turn. There was one turn at the end where I think you actually probably counted that, and it was 11 mana because you could have played Emperor Thorson instead of the Reno, and you were safe from virtually all
I probably was
possibilities.
safe from everything. Yeah.
And then you have the discounted. So if he goes for Alex Strauza, you counter kill him, and if he has anything else, you have the Reno to back it up.
Yeah, I think I was at 19, and I was just like counting that 18 would probably be the likely amount that he can deal. So that was maybe a little bit of a misstep there. Like the 18 was reasonable, but I guess 19 was impossible without the Emperor. So it was just not happening.
You're just looking at this like, this is way too close to 0 for my taste. I'm just going to go ahead and Reno right now.
So I probably should have dropped the Emperor, but it just felt like at that point that I had the game in the bag already, and I'm just like,
just playing
is
ultra
there?
safe.
I was like just thinking, is there something that I didn't account for? So it was that type of thing that I'm just like, okay, if I play a Reno hero, I'm never gonna lose that because I played a lot of games with Reno lock, so I was pretty sure that at that point I just like had it. So
It's got to be nice to have 2 roads to El Dorado in that situation. Just a fantastic set. Once again, another sweep with the Reno Roll. Savjz, congratulations on your win and good luck in the rest of the tournament. So that's going to wrap up our first match, but there's plenty more to come today. There's 16 competitors, and we're playing down to 8. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to have our next match here at SeatStory right after